Hello there, it's great to have the opportunity to be in touch with you again, even though it's in a rather strange way, rather see you personally, but here we are. It's a very odd time that we're all in, and for many it's been a very difficult time. Either those who have been ill or lost loved ones, or people who've been trapped, like all of us, in our homes. It's been a struggle. On the other side of it, there's also a time of opportunity. I think it was Winston Churchill who used to quote the phrase, "Never waste a good crisis." And if you look back into the New Testament, you find that often the big changes took place during crisis time. In Acts chapter 8, when great persecution came on the church, which was a terrible time for them, and they lost some wonderful people. But out of that, the church exploded and expanded out. Something happened out of that crisis. And this is a crisis in which God is working as well, because we hear not only through hearsay, but also in the news that more people are tuning in to Christian services, more people are getting in touch with church, more people are praying, more people are being open to God. And so out of this crisis, something wonderful is happening as well, in the midst of all the hardship. And we'll look back on that and probably look at this time and think, wow, this is what happened because of this period. But the crisis is also an opportunity for all of us individually to discover some things in the crisis that we might not be able to find at other times. And I'll just share something with you that I have found myself. I've been doing some jigsaws, maybe something to do with my age, I don't know, but I find it stimulating and good to do them. And somebody recently gave me a jigsaw puzzle of the street map of London. And it looked very complex, and I didn't know where to begin. It was just a mass of roads and streets and all the rest of it. And I did what I normally do, was that I started with the outside. Most people do that, and put a boundary around it, so I knew what the circumference, what the area was that I was dealing with. And then I thought to myself, I think I'm going to start with the most obvious thing in London, that's the river, because it's quite easy to find the water bits and put them together. And once I've got that, I've got a basic structure for my jigsaw. And then thirdly, I thought, no, the other big area in London, the parks, Hyde Park, Regent's Park, Battersea Park. So I found those and I put them in, and we're beginning to take up quite a bit of the room. And then I thought I'd go for the stations and follow the lines in and out of the map. Now, when I'd done that, I was going to say it was easy. It wasn't easy. It was quite complex from then on, actually, because there were lots of little streets and fiddly bits. But this made it easier to actually do it. And as I look back on that, I thought, actually, this is something I've also discovered in my own personal life through this crisis. The first is that it's important to put boundaries down. With a slightly more unstructured day, I found I needed to be much clearer about what I was doing and make sure I had a structure to every day. What I did in the mornings, I've been working a bit in the mornings, doing a bit more leisure in the afternoon, etc., etc. But every one of us has the opportunity to make structure. And it's within the structure we often achieve much more, and we certainly feel more secure. And so a rhythm for the day becomes very important for us. The second thing I found was to start with the river. And the river for me was a reminder that the key to life is building our life around our relationship with God. Fortunately, the Bible says in the Psalms, the river of God is full of water. So as we come to that river in our time of dryness and maybe difficulty, there's a place of refreshment for all of us. In the Psalm 1 starts with that wonderful picture of the tree planted by the waterside, by the river, drawing on the wonderful moisture, and out of that comes fruitfulness in every season, and leaves for healing. And so as we draw on that water on a daily basis, every day, in whatever way is best for you, whether it's in the morning or the afternoon or the evening, but you find a time every single day where you're just quietly going to draw on the river of God and draw on his power and his love. And then thirdly, for me, the parks represented leisure, relaxation, refreshment, which is part of every one of our lives. Even for Jesus, he took time away, went away with his disciples, went and found a quiet place. His life not only had a rhythm, but it had leisure built in. And that becomes incredibly important. At whatever point of life we're doing, we are made whole people, not just for work, but for leisure and for fun and enjoyment and relaxation. And then the fourth thing was the stations, which spoke to me about relationships, that they're absolutely key. And although we've been socially distancing, in fact, for many of us, we've built closer relationships than we had before. We can't touch people or hug them, but we've built close relationships through Zoom and FaceTime and all these sort of things. And certainly in our street where we live, we've got to know far more people than we ever knew before. And these relationship buildings we see as a priority in our lives. And then there's the rest of life. But if we see these as the key things to our life, to put boundaries around each of our days, to start to make sure every day we have refreshment, that we have times of rest, that we're building good relationships. Now, when we establish that in lockdown, that should be a new rhythm for our lives outside of lockdown. So then we look back on the crisis and the difficulty we've gone through and we say, well, it was hard, it was difficult, but I learned some new things. I put some new patterns into my life, which will put me in good stead for the future. So that I go back into the hurly-burly of life that we were living. We're able to say, hang on a minute, I want to make sure that I have a framework to my day and to my week and to my life. I want to make sure that I build in every day the river. I put the river at the center of everything. I want to make sure that with every day, within every few days, I take rest and relaxation and see it as a gift from God. I want to make sure that these relationships that I've been building, I want to maintain and keep into the future. So out of it, we'll be able to look back and say, well, that was very difficult and we wished we hadn't gone through it. But in fact, not only has the church begun to thrive nationally, but in my own life, I've learnt some new things which will allow me to move on into the future in a far better way and not to let it go, not to lose it, but to hold on to it. Well, those are thoughts that were helpful for me and maybe something in there will be helpful for you. I hope at some stage we shall actually, as they say, meet again. In the meantime, God bless. Thank you.